Well, hello and welcome, everybody. This is your host for the Helix Show, Ken D. Foster. I have my co-host with me today, Dr. James Lee. He's saying hi to y'all. We're very excited today. I want you to join us for an enlightening conversation with Dr. Bernie Siegel. He's a pioneering force in the integrative medicine and mind-body healing. He's a Yale-trained surgeon who turned visionary, and Dr. Siegel has spent decades challenging conventional medicine thinking, advocating for the power and the role of love and belief in emotional well-being and healing. Whether you're facing some illness today or supporting a loved one, this is a show that I believe will really help you to take your understanding of what's possible and how we can heal diseases that a lot of people think are impossible to heal. That's what this show is all about today.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the deluxe bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
So right now, I'd like to just say hello to my co-host here, Dr. Lee, and then we'll get on with our interview here. So,
hello, Ken. Thanks for having me again, and I am honored to be co-hosting with you, especially with this show with Dr. Siegel. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to.
I gotta interrupt you because you made something pop into my head. Now it almost went out again. What were you talking about before as you introduced me? Oh, I remember. The Yale-trained surgeon.
Yeah.
No, I trained Yale. They didn't train me. I began to do work. I'm an artist. I want to get into that too. And that just made me a very different human being. From the time I was a kid, I used to sit at a table and draw pictures. And I thought I was nuts as a kid. I said, what are you sitting there drawing pictures? Why don't you go do something? I have painted portraits of everybody in our family, patients, others, and just amazing. And I began to ask patients to draw pictures of themselves, you see, and it was incredible. And a lot of it I began to learn from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross because she said, no, you're not nuts. Draw me a picture. And I drew her a picture, and she started talking to me about things like, why there's 7 trees? I said, what are you asking me that for? I'm just a scene. Yeah, but why 7? And, on colors had mean. And I couldn't believe what she was telling me and asking me. And I did a lot of pediatric surgery, and the kids had no trouble. You gave them a box of crayons, draw a picture.
Right.
And again, how did I train Yale? Everybody there thought I was nuts. What is he asking his patients to draw pictures for? And why do so many patients who aren't his patients page him to talk to him? I mean, imagine being called by a patient in the hospital. You walk in and the woman says, I'm glad you're here. Nobody else listens to me. I had a heart-lung transplant the other day, and the person whose heart and lungs are in me talks to me every night. Last night, he told me what he wanted for breakfast, and they all think I'm crazy. I said, ask him for the phone number of his family. We'll call him. And we did. And guess what? It was the right number. They said, oh, yeah, he died in a motorcycle accident. And what had she ridden on for the first time in her life? A motorcycle. And she wrote a book called The Change of Heart by Claire Sylvia. But I never would have learned about her if I weren't crazy. So I would do all this pediatric surgery. And when the parents came in, I tell them either before they came to get your kid to draw a picture of themselves in the operating room and their home and family with crayons. You had to have all colors, they have meaning, and bring them. Well, after one of the anesthesiologists had seen all these incredible pictures, he made a coloring book. When I say that, it's like about 5 or 6 pages with outlines of, you're entering the operating room, you're in the operating room, you're having surgery, you're in the recovery room, you're going home with your parents, all those pages. And I could tell everything about how the kid was treated at home, how he would do in the operating room, everything else. Well, one morning, the anesthesiologist came up to me because he knew that the kids were showing things in the future, and you had to be concerned about them because the drawings contain past, present, and future. And he said, Bernie, I'm worried. I said, what is it? He said, look, and this page said, you'll enter the operating room and you'll meet someone called an anesthesiologist who's dressed in an outfit that looks like green pajamas. The kid drew him in red. I said, uh-oh, look at the last page. If he draws himself in purple, because red is a sign of trouble, emotion and everything. And I said, look at the last page of the coloring book. If he draws himself purple, I'm sending him home. He's saying I'm going to die in the operating room. We turned to that page, and it wasn't, purple. But the anesthesiologist said to me, oh, my God, Bernie. I said, what is it? His mother has muscular dystrophy, and if he has one of her genes, he could have had an adverse reaction to a muscle relaxant and died in the operating room. Well, we went ahead and operated, and he did fine. But, from that day on, nobody's thinking Siegel's crazy because of these incredible pictures that the kids drew. And I use them to help my patients make up their minds. It could be, what job should I...
Bernie, are you tapping into your intuition? What is this, where is this coming from? Where did this,
You're unconscious.
Coming from?
You're unconscious. Your unconscious knows the past, the present, and the future. It's stored in you. It knows. Consciousness knows what's coming. See? And it knows what's in your body. It knows all kinds of things.
I have a question. Like you figured out that these pictures, these drawings, tap into this inner ability. But how did you discover that? When did you start that? Did you discover that for yourself as a child? That you were able to draw?
Yeah, some of it was from my childhood. Some of it was from going to workshops and hearing people say things that sounded absurd. Like how number means something, colors mean something. But I was talking to, people who became world famous, like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and others. And I listened to them. They were talking about consciousness.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you things that happened to me too. I was giving lots of lectures about survival, helping people live. And I realized I'm not giving the lecture. Somebody else is giving it. I'm just talking. And people started coming up to me and saying, I saw a man standing next to you, so I drew his picture for you. It was like, what? And then I spoke at a Christian funeral. And as the people are all leaving, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross knew this person too. She said, Bernie, are you Jewish? I said, what are you asking me that for? I spoke at a Christian funeral? No, there's a rabbi standing next to you. What? And she saw this man that I had seen. That was the guy I was told you're going to meet an inner guide. And I looked off in the woods, and there was this fellow who looked rather strange because he had a black little flat hat on his head, because I didn't realize who it was. And he had like white shawls on. And I thought, what does he look like that for? If I'd known he was a rabbi, I said he's wearing a yarmulke and he's wearing prayer shawls. That's why. But it never occurred to me. And he was the one who said, my name is George. So, okay, your name is George. So he was a part of my life, but I had never, not a big part of my life. I didn't talk to him. I thought it was all a little bit crazy, all these things that were happening. But then, what do I know isn't happy? Other people are seeing him. And then one day, And I'm not making up any of this. A branch of a tree fell on the house I'm sitting in right now. So that morning when I went out, I saw it, and I climbed up on this wooden ladder one of our kids had brought home that he found, and I grabbed the branch and threw it off the roof. Then when I stepped on the ladder, I didn't realize it had corroded, and the rung broke off, and I fell. But as I'm feeling, and believe me, in my head was, you could die, you could be paralyzed, you could, and as I'm falling, I realized you're not falling. Somebody's putting you down. I was straight up and down, moving slowly. It wasn't real. Yeah. And then, boom, my feet hit the ground. And I wasn't expecting it, so I toppled over. But I didn't get hurt, you know. And the family came running out yelling, quick, quick, call an ambulance. I said, stop, I'm fine. I didn't get hurt. And I realized later that was George. He took me and put me down. And he has saved me. I mean, I haven't been in too many accidents, but I've been in a car accident where I was thrown out of the car into the street. And I thought, you're going to die now. And no, not one single car came right up to me. They all, like swerved around. And, oh, George is watching me.
How did you use George?
Let me tell you one more
like
story
George.
where George was really a big help. My father, he said to my mother, I'm ready to die. His words were, I need to get out of here. He was in his room in the hospital. And my mother said, help him out of bed. I said, Ma, he's telling you he wants to die. He's in pain. He had a lot of heart problems. And into the visiting room right off my father's room is George. And he said to me, you know how your parents met? I said, no. Then ask your mother when you go in the room. So I go in the room. I said, Ma, how did you two meet? And she said, oh, your father was coming down the beach one day, and I was there on vacation. I stayed with some girls I didn't know sitting on the beach. I learned later they had a terrible reputation, and the boys tossed coins to see who would get which girl, and your father lost and got me. And my father burst out laughing and died laughing because of that. And those are the things that have happened. And I don't deny them, and I look forward, as I say to George.
I think there's so many things we can't explain, and I think that one of the things that I know that you've done, you were the pioneer. You're one of the pioneers that really shook up the medical industry in looking at beliefs, looking at consciousness, looking at love, looking at connection, and how that helps us.
Let me add a book I'll probably never write, but I thought that what topics? I'm an artist, so I see the world differently. People don't understand that. See, I don't shut my mind when patients or other people talk to me because I have an open mind. It's creative. And my family thinks I'm nuts. Everybody thinks I'm nuts. But that's it. And then I realized the rest of us, we have the mechanic, the surgeon, what was the other thing? Oh, I'm trying. There were other characters I realized that were sort of in me. And, the mechanic does things. You fix a flat, you fix an engine, but you're not knowing anything. And the surgeon, too, can go inside people, but doesn't know the patient. You're dealing with organs. And I couldn't keep doing that. That's why I'd say draw yourself in the operating room, because I couldn't just deal with them mechanically. I mean, I loved what I got called at for, like, you lie to patients all the time. No, I was hypnotizing them. I love doing it with kids. You take an alcohol sponge, walk up to this 4 or 5-year-old, say, you're lucky, I got this new thing that's just invented. I'll rub your skin, you won't feel any needles. And you brought the kids,
and they take it on.
But the kids always said to me, oh, why don't the other doctors do that? They were numb just from that little, and that's what changed as I say, the staff in the hospital.
So
that-
how important is it for belief in the healing process?
It's incredibly important. That's why don't just think of everything as mechanical. Well, let me tell you the classic. What do you think,
I want to hear the stories that you have that show the difference. Let's hear. Yeah.
What do you think doctors draw when you say to them, draw yourself working as a doctor? What picture did they hand you?
Huh? That'd be a really great question to ask. I don't know. What'd you find out?
Well, the answer is they draw a picture of themselves sitting in an office with all their papers and instruments around them and no patients.
Interesting.
10% of the time you'll see a patient in the picture. I couldn't believe it. You talk to 90 medical students one day in the class, draw yourself working as a doctor. One student had a woman standing with her, and it wasn't even in an office. It was outdoors. I said, that's a real doctor. And that's why I say what we need are artists who see the world. And see, here's the other thing that's mystical. We have 5 kids. I'm laughing because I drove my wife crazy. I want a daughter to take care of me when I get old. And after 3 boys, she learned she was going to have twins. And I never forget her saying to me, if it's 2 more boys, I'm not coming home from the hospital. Thank God the first one out was a girl. Even the obstetrician said, oh, what a gentleman. He let his sister out first. Because then the whole place relaxed because they knew we had 1 girl. But I had every one of them that I painted a portrait of. And I'll just deal with one, and it's the easiest. He's 4 years old. I draw him sitting on the ground outdoors with his arms around this enormous lion. After I did it, I thought, what are you doing? People are going to think you don't love that kid. The lion could kill him. But what did he turn out to be? A massage therapist. And boy, has he been a gift for me in my life, and especially as I'm in my 90s now, and he keeps my body healed. It's amazing. But every drawing of every kid showed them in the future and what they were going to be. Well, even, and sorry for me to stop talking, our daughter had twins. One of them had a genetic defect before genes were a big thing, and so he was never diagnosed until a year or so. You know, he was dying, and they finally diagnosed his problem, which then let them save the lives of a lot of other children. But he never survived. But our daughter cared for him, and I knew she was that kind of person. And in her portrait is this giant elephant behind her that looks like he's going to run over her and kill her and trample her. And I thought, how could you do that? You know? But then I realized, no, the elephant was showing what came into her life, that she knew how to survive. And so she survived. She's helped save the lives of other children.
Imagine this is your money and someone wants to take it from you. Who is it? The IRS. Guess what? They want your money and they can take it, all of it if they want. Remember, they sent you that letter right over here that said, hey, you owe us a bunch of cash and we're going to take it from you right now. So what do? You fight back by letting our team of experts work it out with the IRS so you can keep your money. And hey, we're good at what we do. When you hire us, you get a team of guys on your side that know the IRS laws, and we'll fight really hard to save your money. So, if you owe the IRS a ton of cash and you want to keep it, call right now and learn for free how we can help you put it back in your pocket. 5 minutes of your time right now can save you thousands of dollars. And the best part, it's a free call, so please call right now.
What we're talking about is connecting to the soul, right? They're connecting to something inside of them, that creative genius that's in all of us. But, you know, how important is that in the role of healing? right? When we're talking about
Yeah, let me. I was in the emergency room, and you know how I'm talking to you. Don't stop.
Yeah.
The other nurses and doctors were saying, Siegel, lower your voice. We have a lady in here with severe headache, and you're making it worse. So I went in and I said to the woman, I'm sorry, what does your pain feel like? She said, oh, it's incredible pressure. I said, what's the pressure in your life? She looked at me, stood up and said, I'm going home, and walked out the door of the emergency room free of pain.
wow.
She didn't even have to answer the
It
question.
was, it's my marriage. See? And she went home to straighten it out with her husband. And that's something I learned in the office too. I'm in incredible pain. What does it feel like? And people would say something and say, oh, thanks, and go home. And then I began to get phone calls from a mystic who said, people are calling me and telling me about people who have died that have gotten in touch with them, and they're your patients. Do you want to talk to them? I said, sure. And it's incredible the things that I experienced. When my mother-in-law died, who was a well-known opera singer many, many years ago, the day after she died, this mystic called me and said, Bernie, a lady who was an opera singer called. And I said, yeah, it's my mother-in-law. She just died. Yeah, she'd like to talk to you, but she doesn't want to embarrass you or upset you. Or I said, no, that's fine. Tell her to call me. And the phone rings, and it's my mother-in-law. And we talked. And those are the things that I've experienced. So,
Wow.
you know, I'm not looking forward.
So what we're saying, there's a part here that, we're talking about, healing and illness, and, how important is that spiritual guidance, to listen to that.
It can be incredible. That's why I said to, people come up with words that tell me what you're going through and what fits your life, and let's straighten out your life, or draw your, your treatment, your disease. When you draw your treatment as poison, you're going to have every side effect in the book. And so it's getting to know your body and what it is reacting to and what it's doing. See, here's the key. Somebody gets well and not supposed to. What does a doctor call it? Oh, you had a spontaneous remission. Hey, stupid, it's not a spontaneous remission. In the book, Cancer Ward by Solzhenitsyn. See, when I'm reading these books, I see something in the book that other people don't see. These lines. It says here that there are cases of, spontaneous healing. But he says in the book, but it isn't spontaneous. It's self-induced healing. And it was as though a rainbow-colored butterfly had fluttered out of the great open book to spread its healing touch as it flew past. It was only the gloomy Padiev who, with hopelessness, the opposite expression on his face, croaked out. I suppose that you need to have a clear conscience. Now, I read that in the book. And I thought, wow, Solzhenitsyn knows what I'm talking about. He must have had cancer. See, he's not having a spontaneous remission. He's having healing, self-induced healing. And that's the part I learned and that I began to talk to people about. And again, because when they change their life, they change their chemistry. Look, I walked into the bedroom one morning years ago to wake my wife up and discovered she had died in her sleep. I had a heart attack in 5 seconds. It felt like somebody shoved a knife in my chest to find her dead. And and I've had some heart troubles since, but they're also mystical.
So you had the broken.
That's what proved it to me. See, it's what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
So when I find my wife dead, my body is very different than when I find my loved one, fine in bed. And so then my heart is damaged by my body chemistry. So it's scientific, but your mind creates that chemistry. And that can be true, if, as I say, if you draw the operating room as a horrible place, what your home and marriage are like, your job, all those things relate.
I have a question. You talk about patients who draw their chemotherapy as poison. You're talking about finding yourself in a difficult situation, finding your wife, and you're finding yourself in these situations, and your body's reacting. What do you do with that patient who's drawing the chemotherapy as poison? What did you do when you found yourself in this situation where
I'm going to tell you? Yeah. But it's what I learned, again, because I went to workshops. See, I was considered, every time I was interviewed, I was written about interview with the controversial Dr. Bernie Siegel. Life isn't so controversial anymore. I mean, we have a group called IANDS now, IANDS, Institute for the Advancement of Near-Death Stories. Now, 40 years ago, they would have said, what are you talking about, Ian? I was talking about all these things that I was experiencing, which included those things. And I was considered nuts, so you didn't get on radio shows and people didn't publish your crazy books and everything else. But now it's accepted. Yeah. And so I'd say to people, keep your minds open and how you affect yourself and your life. You hate your job. I mean, excuse me for laughing, but I'm in a big fancy church in New York to give a talk. This guy who looked like a bum walked up on the stage. I said, what are you doing here? I'm here to introduce you. I said, what are you dressed like that for? Well, they told me I had cancer and I was going to be dead in a few years. And I, was a millionaire with a big fancy business. I wanted to impress everybody. But when they told me I was going to be dead, I canceled the dress code at work. So all his employees are allowed to come in looking like bums and just relax and enjoy themselves and not worried about impressing customers. And he said, and then I didn't die. So he was up there to reduce me. But I mean, those are the people that I kept meeting who reaffirmed what I was believing. That's great. And, when people didn't want to believe those things from their patients, then fine. They rejected me and they rejected their patients. And so those people came to my office because they knew they could talk to me. And it wasn't that I'm going to live forever, but it was about enjoying your life. See? And then your body gets a chemistry message that says, hey, you're enjoying life. I'll do what I can to keep you alive.
Gotcha. Okay, so relaxed dress code. And just before we started this interview, you were discussing a patient who moved, did you say to Montana? Where did you say?
Oh, yeah. He moved to Colorado, the mountains. Because he said to me, so I knew it was beautiful there. I want to die in the mountains, so I came here. And then when I didn't get invited to his funeral, I called his cell phone because I thought the family probably had it. But he still had it out in Colorado, and he answered the phone. And those are his exact words. It was so beautiful here, I forgot to die.
Wow. Hey, listen, guys, I got to take a quick break. I'm going to put us on pause for 1 second, and we'll be right back. So hold on here.
Hi, everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have live agents available right now to answer your questions and tell you how much your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin with us in the Help Center. So Tom, phones are really busy over there. Tell us what kind of calls you're seeing.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the call center with you. We always enjoy talking to the viewers and getting folks the compensation that they deserve. We're seeing calls about all kinds of accidents, but the most common by far has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live person. They'll answer any questions you have and tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now.
Hi, folks. Joe Namath here. Did you know that I wear hearing aids? I love my hearing aids, and I am here to help you get a deal on the same brand I wear.
Don't waste thousands on expensive hearing aids when you can get MD Hearing's revolutionary Neo hearing aids for just $297 a pair. The Neo is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. With rechargeable technology many customers say is superior to more expensive models. And you can get 2 Neo hearing aids with a 45-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free lifetime US-based support for only $297. The Neo is nearly invisible with its tiny in-the-ear canal design.
Call my friends at MD Hearing and get the over-the-counter hearing aids that I use for you.
Call now and get not 1 but 2 Neo hearing aids for just $297.
800-789-7885. Again, that's 800-789-7885.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is your host, Ken D. Foster. I'm speaking here with my co-host, Dr. James Lee, and we're speaking to the Dr. Bernie Siegel, who's a pioneering surgeon. He's authored over 12 books and is an internationally recognized leader in the field of integrative medicine and mind-body healing. Dr. Siegel, I have a question for you. You know, a lot of people are stressed out, worried. They're going through life 90 miles an hour, and we've got an obesity problem in the United States. We've got a drama problem. How does all this impact health?
You know, it's all due to one simple thing I've learned: who your parents were and how they treated you. And I can tell you, I keep feeling sorry for Donald Trump, because what did his parents tell him? Get rich, be famous. They didn't say make it a better world. They said get rich, be famous. I mean that. I read books about his parents and how they treated him. My parents drove me nuts. And my grandparents, they were spiritual people. I learned this later as I grew up. But I would go to them with problems, and they'd say, God is redirecting you. Something good will come of this. I thought, you're no help. God is redirecting me, but no matter, and if something good happened, then, God was doing that for you. And how do I know what to be when I grow up? Do what makes you happy. And who should I help? The people who need help. I mean, I never got specific answers, so I had to pay attention to myself and what I was feeling and thinking and what to do. And I can tell you, as I said, in courses in English and writing, I was thinking and didn't do well at all. But in art courses and creative things, I was all A's. Yeah, I graduated with high honors, but my lowest grades that appear on documents, like a C in English. And I have a sense of humor, so I wrote to my college when I had a best-selling book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And I said, could you raise my grade to a B? Then I'll have high honors and it'll appear on all my documents that way. And they wrote 3 pages back telling me they can't alter grades after graduation. And I felt so sorry that they didn't write a letter saying, hey, Siegel, you can't, that they were laughing and saying they couldn't do that, but at least they were smiling. But that letter was so serious. And that's the whole point of my appearing here with you. Yeah. They're so goddamn serious. Why don't they relax and help their students?
Well, let me go there, Bernie, with that. I know that years ago I taught a course. I taught about 2,500 people came through a course I was teaching on how to be present, be connected in front of large audiences. Was called Speaking Presence. And at the end of that class, the psychologist came up to me and she said, Ken, you know why people are going through and connecting with themselves and speaking powerfully in just a couple sessions? I said, no, not really. She said, because it's your presence. It's what you bring. How important is that? We're talking about doctors bringing their presence into the healing room. How important is that?
Well, I called it reparenting. I let people know I love them.
Yeah.
So I became their new father. And that changed their life because they knew somebody cared about them, not how much money they made, what job they had, how they dressed, what religion, color of skin. I loved them. And that made all the difference. And I got plenty of thanks for it and a lot of hugs. And I realized, well, yeah, that was the best treatment.
Well, you've said that the doctor's presence is more important than the prescription. Is that?
Yeah, I called it reparenting people.
Reparenting.
Yeah, I used to say to people, I'll be your father. And they'd look at me. I said, yeah, I'll be your father.
I have a question for you. As a physician, and as one that has been in the past treated a lot of patients, a lot of people, just the thought of being a parent to every one of those patients sounds daunting. It's intimidating, like the amount of energy and the amount of effort, the amount of caring that would have to come out for each one of those patients. Where do you find that energy? Where do you find that motivation?
No, that energy is there. It's coming from love. It doesn't drain you. And it's when it isn't about love, then it becomes work. I need to let him know I like him. No, if it's from love, it's a different level inside. And that's why I said to you, like when the person I love died, I had a heart attack. I didn't have anything wrong with my heart. As I said, I'm 92 years old. I run marathons till I was age 70. And so what made that happen? Then it's my chemistry, my mind. I'm depressed now. My wife has died. It's a tragedy. Yeah, then my body feels it. But when I'm helping people, when I'm doing something for someone, I don't, I'm not asking them to pay me, reward me. I'm doing it because the act is my reward. I've helped somebody to live. I've helped somebody to survive. So I go home feeling good that day.
You know what? On a
healthy.
smaller level, I get it. Like when I something as mundane as doing the dishes, when I go home and there's a bunch of dishes and I'm cleaning the dishes for myself, boy, it's a chore. Why am I doing this? Life is terrible. But you know what? I go home, I'm doing it for my family. My wife is busy. My kids are doing homework. I come up with a reason that I'm doing this for my family. And you know what? All the dishes are done. They're gone. That was easy time. So I 100% appreciate that.
Dr. Siegel, I want to ask you this because I think we're touching on it, but I want to go direct with it. How important, you've got physicians, you've got, practitioners watching this show all the time. How important is it and how do you do it? How do you balance the science and the spirituality in terms of healing?
Well, just come from your heart. Be honest. I'm not making up stories. I'm telling the truth about people I have dealt with, worked with. And if they don't want to believe me, if they say he's crazy, fine. You can leave saying I'm crazy. But then, see, what usually happens is it's like then their wife or husband dies, or one of their kids is hit by a car. And then they begin to realize maybe Siegel isn't so crazy after all, because they begin to see what surviving is about, what dealing with loss and death are about. That's why when I talk to you about so many spiritual people who are blind, in wheelchairs, but they're still spiritual healers. Even though they have physical defects, they're still teaching us how to deal with those defects and those problems. And then they can become real teachers. Yeah. Even when I let me tell you this. I didn't tell you. Let me tell you something. Hold it. I painted myself.
I have a question for you, though. So
wait for a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
I painted a portrait of myself. And you don't know it's me when you come in the house, because I'm painted myself with a cap a mask and a gown in the operating room. I don't know what the hell made me do that. I thought, why are you covering yourself up? Then I realized, yeah, you just shaved your head this year, 1960. And when I painted myself all covered up, you come in the house, you don't know that's Siegel. And what did I call the painting? The High Priest. And then what did I find in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's writings? The reason monks shave their head is symbolic of uncovering their spirituality. When I read that, see, if my barber had said to me, Bernie, you need to uncover your spirituality, I wouldn't have got him into such trouble. Because imagine walking into your barber in 1960 and saying, I want you to shave my head. He said, no, your 5 kids will kill me. You embarrassed them enough as it is already. I told him, I'll go on vacation. They won't know. So he shaved my head. And then I went home and he got into big trouble and our kids all went nuts. Because, you know, I'm embarrassing them already and look what I go and do. But I learned, you know. And so, yeah, we need to pay attention to what's within us, the messages we're getting from inside. Siegel isn't afraid to talk about those things. And other people don't want to know.
Well, you know, mommy, you damn brings up that brings up the next subject, and I would just, you know, so he shaved your head. Your family, you know, they probably had to forgive the barber at some point, you know. So, you know, forgiveness and healing, is that, you know, how's that interconnected here?
How does what?
Yeah, healing and forgiveness.
Yeah,
how's that interconnected with the healing process?
Well, it brings you peace inside. Remember, the healing is about your body chemistry. Monday morning, people have more illnesses and problems because they have to go to work now, and I hate my job. Friday, oh, it feels good. I'm going home now. But when you don't like your life, getting sick is wonderful. I don't have to go to work now. I don't have to go anywhere. But when you enjoy your life, the chemistry in your body is altered. And you'll have fewer illnesses, you know, autoimmune diseases, allergies, all kinds of things are less significant in your life because you have a healthy body. And that makes an enormous difference.
You remind me that I like when I got very ill a number of years ago. I've shared this on the show before, but I've had a brain tumor and a neck injury. And when you go through something like that, you kind of readjust, you reassess what you're thinking and what your life is about. And I like what we're talking about, and you switch it around. It's not about the health. It's not about bringing my body back. It's not about bringing the physicality back, because the body can heal. It's about bringing the soul back. It's about bringing the person back, giving me a reason to come back. I think that's the trick. And what you're doing is tapping into everyone's reason for being here. We all have cars, and cars are designed to move, but we actually need to get someplace. We need to accomplish something with this locomotion. And what you're getting at is the reason why we're, as human beings, put on this planet. We need to interact with people. We need to share
what I said. The artist.
Yes.
You say interact, right? You interact and you create relationships. You don't have to make a picture. You know what I mean? But you're creating a relationship. So it's something that people see and are participating in. It doesn't have to be a literal painting or drawing, but it's a creation. And that's what people need to do. Turn themselves and their lives into creating a work of art.
You know,
works of art are enormous.
I'm just about out of time, and I just love that. Creating a work of art. Yeah. So is that the first thing that you'd want people to know? If somebody's just diagnosed with a serious disease, or listening to this, or they have a family member that was just diagnosed, what would you say to them, maybe not medically, but maybe soulfully? What's their first step?
Well, it's not about blaming the person for getting sick, but I would say to them, how would you describe what you're going through? And then when they come up with a word, what else fits that word that's going on in your life? And don't be afraid to say to them, what else, what would you like to do to make your life happy, to make you feel more comfortable? And it can be draw a picture of yourself and your treatment and your immune system and things like that. One drawing, an 8-year-old, the mother had taken around the world trying to cure the kid of cancer. I said, take her home and love her. And the kid drew a picture with 9 candles in it. And I said to the mother, numbers mean something. And I said, she's getting ready to die because she drew her hospital bed in purple. So I said, take her home and love her. And the mother showed me this drawing with 8, candles and then a separate candle. And the mother said, Bernie, Amber handed me this yesterday. It was my birthday. She said, Mom, tomorrow's your birthday. I'm dying tomorrow to free you from all the troubles. Oh. And we realized she drew the picture a week before. So you had the 7 and then the 1, which was her mother's birthday. And believe me, that was a gift to the mother. And again, you see, that's in all of us. So pay attention to it. And I can tell you, I had these tears. I'm just trying not to die. Yeah. I'm trying to enjoy living and not feeling guilty, because I love lying in bed, writing books in my head that I know will never get written, because I don't have time to dictate, to sit and type. My first book, I'd never type. I just sat with a recorder and talked for hours and got somebody to type it, because I never was a writer, but I could talk to people. So all those things happened. And then we got, editors and my wife and others to read it and make it back to me again, and easy for people to read. And that was the first book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And it happened.
Yeah. Well, let me share that with my audience out there. So it's Dr. Bernie Siegel. Of course, you've been listening to him, his Soulful Wisdom, and you can get any of his books on Amazon. I was just there today and saw the many books that you've written over there. I would like to end.
Let me interrupt a second. One book I wrote called The Art. No, oh boy, I think it's called The Art of Healing. If anybody gets interested in the subject, you get that book if you can find it. It shows you drawings by different children and adults and what you could tell from them. So you don't think it's so crazy anymore. But they don't, as I said, they don't teach that in medical school. And I can't get medical schools to say to students, when you fill out the application, send us a drawing of yourself working as a doctor. Because if I were running the medical school, I'd say, you didn't put a patient in the picture, so we're not accepting you.
Wow. Well, listen, we gotta close out this show, but I wanna thank you so much, Bernie Siegel, for being here. Thank you, my friend. And
one correction for you: you don't have to close out your show.
We're gonna open up new relationships with this show as we move to the next level. So thank you, Bernie. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you, Dr. Lee. And until next time, we hope that you will share this show with people that you care about and love, and so that you can take your life to a completely new level.